Hello, everyone. 5 on so far. Hopefully, we'll get a few more. I almost did a boo boo. I almost on YouTube and in StreamYard, where I live stream from, the app, it puts them in the opposite, like it doesn't put them in the order of the date. So the last one that I schedule in is on top, which is in December. So I went to go live and they said, you're not scheduled to go live for like another month or so. Like, oh my gosh, got to get used to it. Yes, got to get used to it. Got to get used to the different platforms, because even in my YouTube channel, it doesn't show the first date first. It shows the last entry that I did as I was scheduling them. I assumed it would show the first date, but anyway, hi Pearl. Always the nerdy one to show up first. That's okay. That's okay. You know, we need to get going on this. I used to open up the live stream on Facebook about 15 minutes before. I'm not sure if people on YouTube like that. I know people like to get it going fast. I just like to give people a minute to get on before we start, but I'm always going through what we need to do. So let me know if you are new to my channel or new to Paint with Janet, because I'm new to YouTube, and you can get on YouTube anywhere. Hi Trish from Brockville. Yes, we've got the same weather here, only colder, I think, than you. And yeah, nice and icy when it gets mild and then freezes again. Yeah, let me know if you're new to Paint with Janet, and just let me know where you're from and tell me all of your deepest, darkest secrets. I'm kidding, I don't need to know. It's like everyone can read that in the comments. Anyway, this is one of my favorites, and I've ever since I first did it, I love it. It's simple. Sometimes it just goes so simple, but it's kind of got this like an elegance to it, right? Just this simple thing. So even like people don't have to be kind of like registered on YouTube or whatever as a user to access any of these videos. So you don't have to be, but I think in order to subscribe, you have to be kind of like a registered user, I think. Hi, Rhonda. Oh, you've got Northern Lights. Wow. From Georgia, you can see the Northern Lights. That's amazing. I'm going to have to go outside and see if I can see them. Plus, I think the Perseid meteor showers are going on soon, either tonight or not sure when. Anyway, yeah, I did this a long time ago, and I just love it. It's simple yet elegant, and if you get the ripples just right, it's going to work for you. So we just need the primary colors, but however, if you have a deep green that you're going to use, that's fine, but use also a little blue and a little yellow in that too, so it's not just a flat green. But I'm going to start right from just the primaries. Then you need a large 1-inch flat brush, which is like this, only this is becoming a filbert. So filberts are rounded, but it's just getting so old that it's almost become rounded. It's a really cheap dollar store brush. It's gunked up with paint. It used to have a red handle. Oh, so funny. So it is like the brush, and I love it. So hi Juanita. Oh, new to YouTube, but not new to Paint with Janet. Okay, good. It's kind of nice on YouTube because then people who are not on Facebook can access it, like anybody can access it. And people do it, people look at YouTube from their TVs now. So it's because it's just like live streaming. Um, and smart TVs can do those things. I'm not very smart. I don't know. I don't even have a TV. I kind of have a big computer with a big monitor. So I guess that's kind of like a smart TV nowadays. So yes, all you need is this and a half inch or a quarter inch flat. Don't always go too small. I'm working on a 14 or what size is this? 11 by 14 canvas. This one is a bit smaller. It's a 12 by 9 or 9 by 12. You say the short number first, small number first. But so that's like a half inch and an inch. Just don't always go so small. People think they have to go so small and then they take forever to get their painting done. Then you can do, I am going to show people. Oh, sorry. Oh, you're keeping me up. Big yawn. I am going to show people how to use a chisel tip, or an angle brush. Some people call it a dagger. Has a more rounded area here. A lot of watercolor artists have the dagger. The short end is more rounded. Not have them, but a lot of watercolor artists love the dagger brush. I just don't use it because I'm teaching sort of from the basics. And if you want to have a small brush, that's fine. But you are going to have to re-dip a lot in the paint. Okay. I didn't say to get a chisel tip, but I just want to show people who have a chisel tip because some people get frustrated with them. They might buy a pack of, say, 5 brushes. And these are every single one of them is just from the dollar store. Half the time they came with a pack, like the chisel tip came in with a pack of the other ones. And sometimes people just throw their chisel tip away because they're like, ugh, I don't know how to use this. It's frustrating. It's not doing what I want it to do. So I can show you a little bit of work with the chisel tip because it is a simple painting. So I can take a moment out to give you some nice little hints. And you know me, I'm always doing little examples close up. So let's get going. I'm going to set up the paintings here. Move them because I'm on this side. Yeah. So when I'm doing in person, I do a much bigger canvas, and I would do this canvas on like a huge, like, well, maybe not so much anymore. I don't know. People are liking the slightly smaller ones, like maybe a 12 by 16. So let's see. I've got the canvases here. Kind of lined up here. I think we can see. Yes, we can see. We've got some focus going. It's an autofocus camera, so sometimes it'll try and concentrate on one thing. Okay, so first off, we need to get some paint on our palettes. I showed you what we're using. So I used just a little dollar store thing of paper plates. Got a little bit of a waxy surface. Hide on. And we want to get some yellow. And like I said, if you've got a nice green, you would want to use like a hooker's green or something like that. And because you want it dark, but also you do want to mix it up a little bit. You don't just want to go straight green. You do want to use like some blue and yellow in there too. So it's not flat. Okay. And I'm using my phthalo blue. I don't need much of it on my palette because it is a really dark color. Although I'll probably use the dark color to show you examples of how to use the brushes and stuff. Then I have my yellow. You're going to need a lot more yellow. I usually use, when I tell people buy lots of white, I also say buy lots of yellow, even though it's always really translucent, so it gets absorbed into the other colors fast if you're trying to mix. Okay, so we do want to keep like our yellow. Probably you'll use about twice as much yellow as you will other colors, and you'll use about 3 times as much white as you will other colors, especially in the winter. I go by, when I used to do a lot more in-person ones, I'd go through like 2 gallons of white in like in a holiday season kind of thing. But I've kind of slowed down in my old age. I'm getting old. Poor me. Okay. Now, one thing I want to show you just quickly, if we only used right now, and I am going to put a little bit of red on here, not for the red leaves, but for the background and some white. Okay, but first I want to show you something with the scrap piece. So let's say I don't want to mix these, okay, so don't resist mixing them. Okay, so I'm going to get some yellow on there, just as an example, and I'm going to take a little blue. Now what's happened is I've got a really bright, almost like a Kelly green, sometimes lime green, because my blue is phthalo blue. If I had an ultramarine blue, it would be different. It still might go pretty bright, but what I want is a subdued blue or a subdued green. And so because it's kind of swampy, maybe it's just a little pond. There's a lot of greenery. It's fall. So we're not getting that bright spring green. So that's what we're trying to avoid. So this is very springy. Springy. We're trying to avoid that. So I am going to get a little bit of red. Red is the opposite color or the complement of green. So in order to calm green down, say, hey, red's your complement. It's going to calm you down when you're having a little frenzy there. So the tiniest bit of red will calm that green. And it's a little bit darker than yellow, and we just don't need as much of it. So you notice I only chose a tiny, tiny bit. You can hardly see where I dipped in the blue. So you need about 3 or 4 times the amount of yellow that you need blue. Then in order to get that sort of natural, swampy, pondy, sort of soft greens of fall foliage, I'm going to take, without washing that brush, I'm going to take a little bit of red, just a little tiny bit, and see how it goes into that just soft, like you get beautiful soft greens. And you could, I've really thinned it so you can see through it, but it's that soft, almost like more grassy, natural green. Kelly green, we're not in Ireland in the spring. Okay. So also resist, especially if you're new to Paint with Janet, resist wetting your brush first, especially you, Rhonda. And she asks me every time, so do I when we're on Zoom classes. So on Mondays, I usually do Zoom classes. We're in the middle of one, but you can always join in for the last 2. They're this Monday coming up if you're up for it. Because we're doing one painting in 2 classes, and it's all about the Florida Highwaymen. So the last class coming up is the big wave. So if anyone's interested. And I can prorate the amount because I do charge for the Zoom classes because Zoom charges me. And so resist the urge to wet that brush. And also if you wet it, it's going to repel your paint. This is a heavy bodied acrylic paint. And see, like it sticks, so it'll repel the paint. Even if you've got like a waterier paint, it's still going to repel the paint. Might not so much if it's really watery because water will stick to water, but so I'm going to just glob on the paint right now, okay? So I'm going to use my yellow first because I really want to I'm just globbing on that yellow. See? Lots of yellow. And then about a quarter of the amount of yellow that I used, I'm going to use blue, okay? So I did about 4 brush fulls. I kind of scooped it full of blue or yellow. And so I'm just going to do just 1 full of blue and dot it around. And then a little bit of red just to calm that down. Even if you've got another green in there, just a regular green, you can calm it down with some red too. maybe not so high up. It'll make a deeper green low down. So where I want it in the pond. So you see, I've got all these daubs of paint. Now we're just going to get in there and look at how pretty that is. See, oh, it's so pretty. It's actually really dark. It's sort of like a really nice, but anyway, I digress. So now we're going to wet our brush a little. We've got all the paint on our brush. We've got all those beautiful colors that are going to blend nicely. And okay, so Juanita, I did say, if you have a green to start, take a little bit of, like I would put some green on my palette. Then I would take a little bit of yellow and a little bit of blue just to kind of mix up your green a little on either side. I would just put that on my palette. And I would even take a little bit of red. So if you've got the green to start, blob the green on, then blob that yellow on, and then a little bit of blue, maybe a little blue close to the top. You still want a bit of blue, but we're going to address that after. So I just like to mix up my colors. So if you're using a secondary color, always try and also use the colors on either side of the secondary color. Like if you're using purple, use a little bit of blue and a little bit of red to kind of mix it up so it's not flat. And like I said, if your green is more of a Kelly green, you're going to want to get some red in there. Okay, so now I'm going to take a little bit of water, not much. I don't want this drippy. And I'm just going to start going back and forth. So this, I want it back and forth, resist the urge. So you see I'm just going back and forth. Resist the urge to use your elbow or your wrist. Use your shoulder, because from a little tiny pond, we can't see the curvature of the earth. So I want mostly going across. As I go, I'm not going to overblend this. So that's also why, see how it's just got different effects throughout? I don't want to overblend that. Once the canvas is covered, leave it alone. Okay, move along. Because if I just keep going over and over and over it, well, then it would be the same flat green. Okay, I want to see lots of nice differences. This one has a little bit of white in front. And when I'm doing them in person, I would use just like a flat green and a little bit of something else just to get started. Because otherwise I'm wasting a lot of paint if I'm getting them to mix online. So here we go. Just the whole thing. Absolutely the whole thing. Tiny bit of water is going to stretch your paint. I'm just catching those curls that I have collecting on the sides, just because then I get paint all over me. And you see, as I go, my brush is damp, so it's really stretching that paint out. And it's a little bit darker near the bottom. So if yours is not darker near the bottom, when you're finished, we just turn the canvas around. So it's always darker at the bottom. The pond is always darker in the bottom. Always, always, always. Okay. And I'm going to get a bunch of paint on my fingers here because I'm always lifting it up. Okay. So you see all these beautiful tones and colors through, and it doesn't have to be exactly straight, because especially back here, there's more like foliage and things like that. But in general, it's not curved. So your elbow's going to curve. It's not an arc. Okay. In general, your shoulder is going to make it straight. So resist that urge to use your wrist or your elbow. And you'll see some parts that are really like a nice teal, especially down here in the water. That's great too. And not like, we always want to get away from every background having a blue sky and then the green water, because this is like low, it's really hanging low. This is a close-up of the leaf. So we're not seeing the sky, okay? We're not seeing that sky. We're seeing all the foliage, and our horizon line is about the halfway point. So our horizon line is the halfway point because we have a different viewpoint. We're looking at the ripple that this leaf is creating. So we're looking low. And when you look low, the horizon line is always according to your perspective. So if you're up high looking low, or if you're looking out at a lake, the horizon is about a third of the way up. But the lower you look, the lower your gaze goes, the higher up the horizon comes. So we're going to get a little white on our palette now. And we don't need a whole lot of white. We're not doing the ripple yet. Okay, so we're not doing this ripple yet. What we're doing is like a little bit of light coming through the sky here. So sometimes as fall hits as well, the pigment of the foliage gets diluted a little bit. Maybe maybe it's a little bit darker in there in the pond. So the white kind of dilutes it. You see, I've done a little bit of extra blending, but not a lot. Little less down here. And we're going to do reflections on the water first. Then we do the ripple the very, very, very last. Okay, so just don't look here. Look here. Okay. It's a very simple painting, but it's got layers, okay? So we have to do the back layer first. I'm going to use this same brush because it's going to give me a nice blend up here. So up here, we're going to, so we can figure out where horizon goes first. It's about halfway. Using your shoulder, because it's a small pond. It's not like we're seeing the round pond going back. We're close up. We've got a good close-up going. I'm going to tilt. You can go kind of straight on, but I'm going to tilt my brush down so you can see. And I'm holding it the thin way like that. Okay? And I'm just getting some little ripple. Like it's not ripples from the leaf. It's kind of ripples from the pond hitting the shore. And you see how it's just a brighter light, a brighter white light. It's not a stripe across. Resist the urge to always do a stripe across. Notice my brush was kind of wiggling and I got lots of paint on my hand. Nice, I'm already all green. I'm a leprechaun. Okay, so I'm taking another tiny bit of white, just the tiniest bit across there. And this is the reflection from the light in the sky, or it's again not the ripple. So we don't overblend this. So notice my brush is moving back and forth. Okay, the ripple works differently. Reflections go with gravity. Gravity will go like the reflection goes back and forth or straight down. Okay, so if you're not painting on an easel and you're painting on your table, resist the urge to tilt your canvas like you would a piece of paper that you're writing, like that. Keep it straight toward you. Otherwise, you won't get a straight horizon. I've seen it happen. That's the beauty of painting in-person classes, because I see what people do. And I'm like, no, don't do that. And go right off the edge. Okay, this is just a little bit of reflection. The bottom stays dark, so the reflection on the top is very different. There's a lot of contrast in the water. If you've got a glob of paint, go back through the opposite way one time and that's it. Just leave it alone. Now up in the sky, I'm going to take a little bit of the same thing. And this time just give it a little extra blend. Well, it's not the sky. It's not down here so much because it's really dense here. Maybe not a lot of light's getting through. So I'm just going to give these little bits of white a little extra blend, because maybe it's just some sun kind of filtering through the foliage. It's very dense close to the edge of the pond. Okay, but sometimes some light kind of filters through. Sometimes you'll get those little round lights that you get in photographs. I forget what they call them. Somebody might know. Somebody might know. Okay. And up here I might do a little extra, like right near the top, because that's where a lot of the light comes through. And this isn't 100% we're covering the whole thing in white and making it light. So there's a lot of variation. We want to see lots of variation, which is called value. And go right to the edge. A lot of people forget they have an edge. Okay, the pond foliage doesn't start and stop here in the middle. Go right to that edge. So we get a beautiful background, and it's got lots of different lights and shadows and dark, and then it is darker down here. Okay, I've still got a little bit of paint left on here. That titanium white's pretty dark, so I'm just going to go take it off, or pretty light, has good coverage, so just want to get it off, and I might smooth that one out that way. So if you have a gob, don't go back the way you did, go back the opposite way. Like sometimes when you get a gob on there. And then we're going to just, like, this is a simple background, but it's elegant and nice. Now we're done with that brush. So put it in water for sure so it doesn't dry out, because like this is a very valuable brush. I don't know if I'll ever get another one like it. I have a million of them, but not like that. It's well seasoned, and I used that brush every time during the pandemic when I did a paint with like an acrylic painting. So now we have our leaves, and we're going to do the leaves first. We're going to do kind of the background of the leaf first, and then we're going to do the highlights of the leaf. So, and then we're going to do the reflection, okay? So the one leaf comes down below the horizon line. So you see it's below the horizon line and it touches, and then the reflection touches it. And then the ripple happens outside that where it touches. We do the ripple last, okay? And so I don't know, I'm hoping you can see that. So you see there's some darker parts under that leaf. See where it's darker? It's like under those leaves, because the leaves are kind of done in two layers. This one really shows it. You can really see in there. See, it's really dark. It almost looks like I've used a burgundy color. And that we're going to do with the red, but because red is a little bit more translucent, what it's going to do is make a base coat that's going to be like our shadow. And the shadow is this green, because green, remember I said green and red are complements? So green will also shadow red, and red will shadow green. Red gets calmer and softer and more natural with green. So that undercoat of green is really creating this beautiful shadow color without having to make a shadow on our leaf. Okay, so I'm going to do what we're going to do here on this. Good thing I've got this example with a green for a red coat. Okay. And I'm going to use my 1/2 inch flat now. And you're going to watch me first, okay? Because I'm going to do this really big. The trouble is some people see me do this really big and then they go and do it really big here. But no, we want it tiny. So this is like a burning bush style leaf. Not exactly sure. It's got like little teeth along the side, but so watch me first, okay? And because I'm going big, and then we do it together small, okay? So I'm going to do like a big, huge kind of heart shape. And I don't have to, so it's kind of like that nice heart. All different heart shapes it's going to be, okay? Kind of a long, elongated heart shape a little bit, but notice that it's very much shadowed underneath where that green is compared to up there, okay? That's a really nice base coat. Even if you've got a cheaper paint, it's still going to work. It's going to work for you, don't worry, okay? So that's what we're going to do, is just the start of our leaves, okay? We don't have to be fancy with this. Some are going to overlap. They don't have to, they can be all different shapes and sizes, everything. I'm going to show you a couple of different shapes that you will see before I start, because you won't be able to see the shapes that I'm doing here as easily because it does go dark. Okay. Okay. So I showed you the heart. Now you might see kind of like a sideways heart. Okay. So you might not see the lobe of the heart. You might not see a perfect point. It doesn't matter. Don't spend too much time on this. This is just the undercoat, okay? You might just see half of a lobe of the heart. Whoops. Like, kind of like that. Because if the leaf is folded over itself, that's what you're going to see. Like here. You're just seeing half that lobe, okay? And, you might see a little bit wider one, like maybe it's going to look like that a little bit. Maybe it's got a bigger lobe here. Because it's like they're twisting and turning in the light breeze. Low down to the pond, they're not really hitting too much breeze, like they're just kind of dangling there. But there's always going to be some kind of movement, right, in the air. So and they grow differently on the stem. So, they might be growing and facing another way. Not every single one of them is going to look like a perfect heart. And if they do, you're in so much trouble, because then I know you didn't listen. Some people don't listen to the teacher. It's really weird. Really weird. Okay. I'm going to keep this back. I want to keep that example of the dark one. And here we go. All right. So I'm going to do this one first, and they need to overlap. I'm going to do that before I do any of the stems or the twigs, okay? Because I might not need very many of the stems and twigs, because there might be many overlapping each other. So you see how they're all, like, sometimes there's a clump. So not everyone is perfectly individual. They're always natural overlapping, especially down at the ends of the branches. Okay, you don't see them along a big branch here. Okay, so it's not like you've got these perfect dots of leaves every square inch, okay? Like every inch you've got one. Okay, so I'm kind of sitting because I've got this. So I do maybe a little bit off center for where it's going to hit the water, okay? If you're picking up some of the red, some of the white, don't worry about it, okay? So this one, I do, like, maybe I want it a little bit bigger, but it can also go big as I put in more of the foreground, okay? And I want one overlapping a little bit, maybe the point comes down over top of it. See? And you see how it's already getting nicely shadowed? Okay, and I'm going to get more paint. So if you're just using the paint that you've got on your brush, every single time dip it. Because if you're just using a little bit of paint that you've got on your brush, you're just going to get a brown. And then I want one that's maybe going to go this way. Okay. See, if I were just to use the paint that's on there, and I want that one overlapping, I'm just going to get this dark brown. Doesn't look very nice, even though the red is translucent. Okay. So every time you do a leaf, you need to dip in paint. You need paint to paint. I keep telling people that. I need to turn it to me a little bit so I can get the design going a bit better. Okay, so I've got two kind of overlapping each other. I've got one overlapping here. I want it up here. I want to create maybe three that are overlapping. I might not see that I've got like a heart here, but it will come out in the wash when we do. And that's probably the lowest that that one's not hitting the pond. This one is. That's as low as it's going to go. So you see how messy it looks where I've got the overlap? I just know that I've got three leaves in there. I can't necessarily distinguish them, but the white, the yellow, and the bright red are really going to distinguish this for us, okay? So that's as far over as I want to go with like lots of overlap. Then I might want to, I want some variation. I might come here. Maybe this is going to be like a half one. I'm going to roll that off my brush because I had a lot on there. Just leave the paint kind of gobby on there. And maybe this one's going to be like another half one because maybe it's being showed from the side. And this one a little bit more heart-like. And so always that variation of the heart. I hate when I say, you know, heart, and then everybody's trying to do these perfect hearts all over their painting. It's like a variation of the heart when you turn it on its side. It's like this is a circle, but the minute you turn it on its side, it's an oval, right? So you start flipping it around. It's different. And one, you want a point of one kind of coming up here. Okay, so not all of them got in there to get their portrait done. Okay, I need to stand up again. I was going low down, so I had to sit. And then I can fill in some more here, but I just want to make sure I've got my painting kind of planned out and interesting. I'm going to have a half one there, okay? Nice half one there. And a nice, maybe this is going to look a little, they can be a bit smaller. Maybe this is like almost a full one that I can see coming down here. And that one's going to overlap that one a bit. So I've got some nice variation in here of my sort of plan and my structure of my painting. I want to maybe this is going sideways, so I'm not seeing it kind of as much like that one is. Maybe it's kind of catching a breeze because it's not as low down into the water. Got another one coming here. And maybe, and I want to leave a center area for a heavier stem. Typically, the heavier the stem has less leaves. Okay, people tend to try and put leaves and dot them all along the stem. That's another reason why I'm trying to get the stem in later. Okay, so this is like a soft, flowy stem. Maybe I'm going to have another little one up here and another half one here, kind of hiding behind it. Again, don't overdo this because you're going to be here all day doing the other stuff, right? So now the reflection is important. This is upside down, okay? We're going to turn it. However, there's the ripple, so we're not seeing this perfectly because the ripple is kind of carrying the reflection. So we're just going to, and I don't care about the other part. Okay, so I'm going to do this upside down. And that one might be reflected a little bit nicer. Now, this is where the reflection does not touch this one. Okay, so the space between here and here is doubled. So you see that space, this space, we go down here to get that reflection. So it gets a little bit confusing. Sometimes people draw the reflection up, it's down. Okay, so because this is up, then this one's going to be down lower. And then I've got this mumble jumble here, over here to the right. I've got some mumble jumble. Some of it's kind of touching that other one. So I'm not even really trying to do my heart shape here. I'm just kind of looking where I've got some of that color. Okay. And then I've got maybe here. So right here. So if you need to do that, so that distance, I might see just that little hint here, but I'm not seeing these ones. Okay, I'm just maybe seeing that little hint down at the bottom. These ones, again, try and do like put a little old paintbrush or an old pencil, that distance, and then it goes this way. So it goes this way. So if it's going that way, it's going to go that way, like a mirror. Okay. And then this one, oops, I maybe started a bit too high, but that's all right. No one's going to know. And this one down here, kind of underneath that. And this one here, maybe a half Nelson. And really, that's about all that we have in the reflection. I do have a little bit busier part in here, and that's it in the reflection. And then we'll add in some of the highlights in the reflection, but they don't have to be the perfect reflection because the ripple, like I said, is going to carry the reflection. Okay, so leave that for a minute. Then I'm going to show you how, I'll show you with both the chisel tip and this brush. Again, this is a really, really, really simple painting. So you do want to take the time to watch me and listen to the teacher. Where's my Julia? Is she on? She usually tells you guys to put your brushes down. She's awesome. Brushes down, listening to Janet, listening to the teacher. So I'm just going to set that brush down for 2 seconds and get an example piece here. And like I said, I'm going to show you both with the chisel tip and with that brush. And okay, so I'm going to show you a nice big one here in blue so you can see every movement. Then I'm going to show you how to do it on top of this one in the red, white, and yellow. Okay, then we're going to do it together. Okay, just going to move this so I don't muck it up because I get things very mucky. I'm the mucker, the marvelous mucker. And get some water. Okay, so here's my, I'm just going to use this for a second to get rid of the red, okay? So I'm doing that's my heart, that's my base. Okay, so with the blue, you're really going to see the motion of the brush. Okay. So the brush, and now so the brush is being held together actually really, really well with the paint itself. So you can see that it's gone quite thin. It's gone quite thin and like that. If it hasn't gone thin, just pinch the end. Okay, so keep the paint on, don't take the paint off. But this one is keep the paint on and just pinch the edge. Use a little piece of paper towel. I won't do it because then, like with the paper towel, just because then you think I'm trying to take the paint off. The paint has glue in it. It's going to hold it together nicely. Okay. If you were to use this tiny brush, you're going to keep dipping and dipping and dipping. And it's going to get frustrating because you're going to try and carry the paint. So you see, I'm just like, you only have a tiny bit, and then you're just going to keep like pulling the paint and trying, and you're going to end up kind of messing it up because it's not going to flow as nicely as on this paper, but and you'll be there for a long time because the canvas will absorb it as opposed to the paper. And so what I'm doing, I'm going to show it to you kind of sideways, upside down, right side up, everything, okay? So I'm going to dip the end. So the end of my paintbrush is going to be, we're going to use red, but I'm just using blue so you can really, really see it. And we're going to go outside the line. So we do have kind of a meridian. Notice my brush is all straight on. All bristles are engaged. It's not like this. See how it squishes? It's going to go fat. Or like this. Straight on. And we're only using the brush this way. 90 degrees from everything. 90 degrees. Okay. So let's say I want to get sort of the center vein. I'm starting just below my shadow line, and I am going to do kind of like little vein going up. This is also going to be in red, so don't worry about it. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start just below that to get the teeth. So this is the teeth of the leaf. Then I'm going to press a little bit harder and draw in. Okay, so you see how it's kind of trailing? So the brush is going to trail. I'm not doing this. The brush is kind of trailing like that. Okay, and I can do a couple of brush strokes. And I'm going to dip again. And I'm pulling into center. And then I'm just going to kind of curve out that part. The teeth don't go here where it's curvy. The teeth go on the incline. Okay, so I get a lot of that. I get all these Furbies that are, have the teeth. See how it's like got nice teeth coming out? And each one isn't going to be exactly the same. So we're not trying for perfection. We're not trying for that little liner brush with these little teeth, because leaves are raggedy, they're turning color, and we don't want to be here forever because it's a painting, not a photograph. I keep saying that over and over again. So I'm going to do it a little bit upside down for you to see again. Okay. So you see, and then I'm pulling in. I can do another dip straight on, pulling in. And I'm kind of pulling towards center. Okay, and it's going to give me the veins of the leaf. Okay, so I'm pulling in, but then I'm kind of pulling towards center. It's going to give me the veins. The paint itself is going to give me the veins. Then I'm just kind of curving that around. Okay, so the leaf does not look like spokes all over, like a porcupine. And I see that all the time, okay? So it's as we do the downstroke, as we curve down, that's where we get the teeth, okay? So the bulby part or the booby part, you're just going to get some highlights on there, but notice the jagged edge is as we curve down, then the jagged starts, and it doesn't go out. It kind of curves down with it a little bit. The jagged edge kind of curves in a little. And again, we're not doing porcupines. Okay, it's porcupine when they're smooth, when they're not threatened. That's what we're looking for. Smooth porcupines, not. So the teeth are very kind of like a suggestion almost, you know. Then, so now I'm going to do it with, I'm going to show you with the chisel tip just quickly. Okay, so chisel tip is, I'm going to really make sure I load my chisel tip. Okay, just so that it really has a good load of paint on it. And I don't have to squish it too much. Now, let's say, here's the leaf. Okay, and I want my jagged edge. I'm just doing this big. Okay, chisel tip. So you can use the chisel tip like a normal brush, the flat way. So there's my boobies. Okay, I'm picking up all along the edge, and point is down, short edge facing in, always pulling in. Always pulling in. So see, I'm pulling in. And you see how my chisel is tilted? So it's tilted. I'm going to dip again. Long end is facing outward. Short end is facing in. And I'm pulling in. And then I curve it out into the boobies. Okay. So always lead with the short end. See how I'm leading with the short end? If I led with the long end, I would get like heavy, I wouldn't get a nice sort of point at the edge. And a lot of people, they do this if they want a point, and then it squishes, okay? If you want a point, still lead with the short end, but only use the point, and you get a finer line. But you're still leading with the short, you're just not engaging all the bristles. I'm going to put that in water so that it doesn't dry out, and I might use it I might use it with this one too. I don't know. So I'm just going to take off the blue. If you were to wash it, you would stretch the blue, and then you get a lot of blue in your paint. So I was just literally wiping it. And see, as I wipe, I'm mostly getting the red that's back under there. But you didn't put blue on yours, right? Yes, Paint with Janet. So now we're going to use lots of yellow and a little bit of white to highlight. To get these nice highlights on, I need a little bit more white. And yellow is a great highlighter for red because then it doesn't go pink. Although you can still have a little bit of pink hues in your leaves as they're turning. Sometimes the maple leaf has a hint of a pinkish hue to it because it is diluting the color. As it fades, the color is diluting. White is light, and it dilutes color. Black also dilutes color. Just needed a bit more red on there. And I said, now I'm going to show you this one. Okay. I know it's coffee time. Now I'm talking too much, right? Am I losing my audience? Again, it pays off to kind of listen, which is good, a good thing. Okay. So now I want to, so the motion, I'm going to just quickly, here's a scrap piece of paper. It's a curvy paper. So there's our leaf. There's kind of the vein down the center. The teeth kind of go here to center. And then, of course, we don't have the teeth here, remember? So we're pulling up. You might, if you pull up that way, that's a little bit, that's okay. You're not going to hurt anything. But generally, on these type of leaves, it goes to center, kind of like, almost like a pumpkin in a way. So it's not like this. It's not like that. That's a different leaf. It's a different leaf entirely. It comes out from, all of them kind of come out from right here where the stem is, like a spider almost. And if you get it a little mixed up, don't worry about it, move on, because we've got lots to cover, okay? So take your time. Now, what I'm going to do is get my red on here, and I'm going to start. So I'm going to kind of go up through center. That's going to give me a line. I'm going to start from the bottom, and then I'm going to grab a little bit of yellow and a little bit of white, kind of on one side. And as it, see, I'm going up. I might not touch up here, but I'm going that way. Okay, see, I'm not kind of leaning in, I'm going upward. I'm going to take a little bit more white. So I'm almost double loading my brush and triple loading. Take a little bit of white and yellow, and I'm grabbing more red as I go. I start from the outside in. So then the brighter, when you do that little dab of white and bright, it's going to be on the, like the outer edge where it collects the light. So I dip in the red, and then I take a tiny dip of yellow. So I'm going to kind of scoop it, because if you touch it, it might just repel off. And then a tiny bit of white, see? And I'm doing it all like a huge amount here. So I'm going upward with the teeth, and I need to dip again, and upward, inward. If I pull out, I'm going to get a porcupine. And then as you go, you can round out your top part of your leaf. And if you end up with too much white in there, don't worry about it, because you can always, if just take a step back, look at it later as a whole, because more light might be hitting that leaf. We've got a lot of them to go. And notice there's a little bit more heavy shadow in the center, and we don't need to shadow, we just need to highlight, because we already have that shadow underneath. And you see my teeth aren't looking too toothy. They're just kind of soft and natural. I know it's reflecting the wet from the light. Okay, so now we begin. Now we go to town. And one big thing, one major thing that you want to look at is if you have a clump of leaves, you are going to do the back one first. Complete the whole thing. Don't put all red, then all white, then all yellow, because then you're going to get stripes, because I know you guys. And you're going to get all like all yellow, and you're going to get stripes around the outside. Don't do that. Resist the urge. Now I got blue on my paintbrush. I don't want to keep that on. Okay, so that's why we double and triple load our brush. But we always start from the back, because then as we go, see the tip of that one? I'm going to really let it zoom in. This is the background one. We did this first from start to finish. Then we do this one, and it shows that beautiful highlight. So typically the very background ones, as we go up the branches, they come more in front. So you see this one's coming more in front of that one. The low-hanging fruit is kind of in the background. And you might even put less highlights in that. This is where it kind of gets a little mixed up, because, you know, I've got 3 or 4 here. That's okay. Okay, all I need to do is pick out which one I'm doing first. So the one I'm doing first is this one, because the very first one that I did, because I want this one overlapping this one. Where's my pointer? This was a pencil that was red. I thought it'd make a good pointer. Now it's getting covered in paint. So this one first, then this one, then this one, then this one, and then this one. So I've got a clump of 5 there. So I'm going to, like, they look like a hodgepodge, but I can kind of pick out which one might be a leaf. Okay, so I'm going to kind of sit. And I do find it easier to use the chisel tip on this, but I'm not going to for you guys. Just need some water because I've been working. Okay, so I dipped. I don't need as much paint as I did for that big one. Then I'm going to take a little bit of white and a little bit of yellow. Doesn't matter which you go first with yellow or white, but you want to get red first. And you see it's on one side, so that side is going to face the outside of my leaf. Okay, this side is going to face the inside. Okay, so I'm going to tilt it a little bit straight on, and I'm going to kind of get my guideline of that inside. I need to dip. Every third one, I kind of need to do a little dipping because I want the paint on there. And remember to round out your boobies. Okay. And a little bit, I've got a lot of light color on there, so I'm just going to add in more red. And then I'm rounding out that boobie. There we go. And then I'm going to do this one. So don't spend so much time on each leaf. Don't get out your little liner brush and start fussing. Okay, you might even want to do a tiny hint of a light here along that curve, but that's too much. Okay, I'm going to just cover it. Instead of trying to take it off, I'm just going to cover it in some red. Kind of mucked it now. I'm going to go from the side. I actually like that. Happy accident. There we go. So I'm still going straight on, and I am only pretty much loading the end of my brush because I'm not using the rest of it. Okay, if you end up with your brush gunked up, just gently wipe it off on the side and then pick it back up on the edge because you got a lot of nice paint there. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of yellow and I'm going to go here up through center. And remember, keep your light part to the outside and you're always pulling in so you don't get a porcupine. And remember to round out the boobie at the top. Okay, it's not a porcupine up at the top. We're not spiking everywhere. No spikies everywhere. Remember? Remember, what would Janet do? Have that in your mind at all times. Okay. A little bit of yellow and on that. And I'm going up in there. And you see the thick paint gives you a really nice also veining. And then the brush stroke is giving you shadows from coming out from underneath in that dark red. Okay, now next one I'm going to do this one, then this one, then this one. Okay, it doesn't matter which one comes first, just as long as you're doing one background one and that it's all the way. How's everybody doing? Checking in? Everybody quiet and concentrating? You guys actually listen to the teacher? Amazing. Okay, there we go. And that's a lot. So a lot of light on there. So I don't need to overdo that. You might not see the teeth on every single leaf, but see, you can see it's starting to overlap. We're getting that 3D effect, which is nice. That's the best way to get the 3D effect is do all your highlights, lowlights, everything, and then move on to the next one. And then they really stand out. I don't need much highlight in here because it's going to be behind the other one. So I'm not going to do much there. And I'm going to do more highlights. Remember to keep your highlights the same. And I'm going to bring that highlight right through center. And then I'm going to get more highlights up, turning my brush ever so slightly and then turning a lot more as I get to the booby part, the booby trap. And that really looked like a spider. It looks like oh my gosh, a gnome. I gotta show you guys this close up. Looks like a gnome. But that's the beauty of it. Like it leaves and things like that, because you're not seeing them perfect. You're seeing them, in different ways. In foliage and like clouds, you're seeing different things. Now I've got too much paint on my brush, so I'm going to wipe it off, but I'm also going to give it another squeeze. I'm just pinching the top. See, I didn't take all the paint off, so I'm just pinching the top, and that way I'm going to get a little bit finer work again. Okay. And I'm going to do left to right here. So when you're doing the half one, you're not going to see all of, so let's say the leaf is going that way. That side's going to be smooth because you're not seeing the other side. You are seeing, however, teeth just here. See that? Like, I'll exaggerate it a bit. Okay. Because it's folded over, you're not seeing the other side. So easy peasy. Okay, now I need to stand back up. I got a big gob there. Okay, so here we go. But you still want a nice highlight. Like if that's facing the top, you want a nice highlight along the top of yellow or white. Yellow and white a little bit. And there we go. I messed up that. Maybe because the way I was sitting. I'm just going to readjust here. Have a different leaf. There we go. So this one's further behind. And this one has got a different look to it. It's just looking a different way. Okay, and it's folded over a different way. They can fold over one way and the other way. And here we go. Doing this one in front. And there we go. More paint. And the more kind of gunky your paint is, the more you'll get these beautiful sort of natural streaks through without overly trying. I like that. It's kind of light. And you're literally going right over your shadow color, because your shadow's underneath. Remember, you're not leaving the shadow color and then kind of trying to stay in the lines. You're going over top of that shadow color, creating. And again, don't fuss. The softer a natural brush stroke looks just so much nicer. Because again, we're not doing a photograph. I always tell people that. We're not doing a photograph today. And then this one might be a little bit darker on the bottom because maybe it's folded over at the top. So I got some white kind of coming through there. And Sometimes it's better to do this without your reading glasses on too, because then you're not going to try and be exact. I need my reading glasses on when I'm trying to read your stuff here. And do it in less brush strokes. So every single vein of the leaf doesn't have to be a brush stroke. Like, because we're kind of putting multiple layers on, one brush stroke could be multiple veins of that leaf. And see how the red is really brightening up, because we also have that nice base of red in there, which is nice. And right over top here, I'm just gonna, sorry, my hand is in the way. I try to tilt you stay straight on, but I'm trying to tilt mine so that you can see what I'm doing. Although you guys are probably concentrating now. Just make sure you're not concentrating on porcupines now that I put that idea in your head. No porcupines. Only nicely rounded booby leaves. And remember, the teeth sort of go down as opposed to out, okay? No porcupine that's in relax mode. So we're trying to do, this looks like a cat playing with something, but I'm going to ruin it. So this is going to be further on the right. It's going to be the very background one. So it's going to have like that coming there. There we go. So only needed to do half of that. It's starting to get a little bit pinky because I might have taken some off. I took some off and picked it up again, but that's okay. There's lots of variations. Okay. Yellow. And that's going to go right over top of that guy. Yellow and white. And I want to get a more pronounced booby on that one. I got another gnome. I think it's cute. All right. So I've still got some of that light color on there. So I'm just picking up red and I'm going off the side. Doing the half Nelson. Okay. And here. And you'll notice as the acrylic starts to dry, the red is getting really, really dark. Also, that's why, like, it's really nice to shadow green with red. You can see where it's drying and it's thinner. That's how beautiful shadows work. Okay. Now this is going to be the under one. And I'm just twisting as I get close to the top. And I'm going to get some bright stuff here on that one. And again, if your brush is gunking up, just give it that pinch. Just a little pinch. Mine's gunking up. Because then it goes nice and thin again. Again, you're not trying to take the paint off. You need paint to paint. Keep saying that over and over again. Oh, I want the opposite way. I don't know what I'm doing now. I lost my way. I lost my way. There we go. Just need more red. Okay. I'm going to step back and see if maybe some of the white is looking a bit too white. I see this is a little bit too white, so I'm going to just sweep through a little bit with my brush. I'm going to go the opposite way, actually. I find if I have a big gob, I go the opposite way, and it works better. Okay. The rest is fine, I think. I like this one way in the background. It kind of looks like it's back, and then the bottom is coming forward. Just kind of looks like it's kind of nice. Kind of like looking like that, maybe. Now, what we're going to do is put some of these highlights where we see them here in the reflection. I'm going to give you a few minutes because I know you probably didn't go as fast as me. Hopefully you didn't go. I'm going to wet my brush a little because it's starting to get dried out. When you're doing fine work, I'm not taking the paint off. I'm just wetting it a bit while I wait for you. I'm going to give you a few minutes, not too long. Okay, not too long. And if you're not, like, if you're only halfway done, you can still do your upper ones after. Okay, so if you're kind of like only halfway through those guys, if you've fussed too much, you shouldn't be. But if you're only halfway done, leave it and then do the rest here, because you should have started low down. So this is where the ripples are going. Up here, you can finish that tomorrow or after I sign off, so that we're not just kind of twiddling our thumbs and you're just listening to me yak, 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 yak. Also, make sure you post your paintings on my page. I think I put a reminder up yesterday or today on Paint with Janet. If you want to put your paintings under that post, that would be fabulous so we can all see. And yeah. Okay. I'm counting the minutes. Not giving you much more time. All right, let's rock and roll. Okay, and this is saved so you can always refer to it later. Okay, so no worries. And like I said, if you're only halfway done, as long as you're done this part, that's okay. These ones can wait. Okay, so we're going to do our highlights down here with a little extra red too. Okay, so I might see some highlights over here. So I'm just kind of glopping it on where I see some highlights. I'm just picking up. I'm not trying to do these like the leaves. I'm just dabbing in some highlights, and where I see that nice yellow there, seeing some highlights here, and they're kind of in the upper part of that shadow. And that's it. That's what I'm seeing there. Okay. And that's it for that part. Now we are going to use the slightly smaller brush. I did say to put that in your list. Well, I put it in your list. So we're going to use the slightly smaller brush to create the ripples. And we can also use it to create the stems, but we can also use this one to create the stems too. So I'm just going to put this in water for now so it doesn't dry out, because it was getting rather dried out. I'm not going to wash it because I can use those colors for the stems because they are a deeper green. They're more of a red green. They're more in this color. So even though I've got red on there, it's great. I just need a little bit of fresh white. Mine's pretty much pink. And you don't need much. I just wanted a little bit. You really don't need much. Okay, so I'm going to use this liner brush. Now, I typically, if you've got thick paint like mine, to do sort of this like flowier paint work, I always keep a little bit of clean water back. This is a little bit of clean water. This one's my dirty water. It's in my dirty old sour, used to be a sour cream container. And I just take, I'm making a little well in my paint because I have thick paint. Okay. And I'm just picking up a few drops with my finger and putting a few drops in there. Okay. And I can give it a little bit of a stir. Doesn't have to have much of a stir. Okay, so I'm just giving it a little stir with my brush. And because I really want this paint to flow. If you have a lower viscosity, high viscosity paint is nice and thick. Lower viscosity is thinner. It's got more water in it. It's actually more economical to buy a high viscosity paint if you're buying a quality paint, because you can always thin it with water because it is water based. Now I'm just going to roll the rest of it off. See, I'm just rolling it and I'm pulling away from the tip. I don't really need a good tip, but that's okay. So ripples do not, we do not see these round, because even though we're kind of looking down on it, we're going to see it like this. So do you see? This looks oval, okay? And it's oval compared to here. The oval starts there, and this little ripple where it touches, we're going to get a little white. So follow me. Everybody do it. We're going to get a little touch. You're going straight on. I'm tilting so you can see. So my hand's not in the way. Just a little back and forth kind of motion. That's it. Very little. Just where it touches, it's just messing with the water. Okay. Then we're going to see a few dots kind of coming outward from there. Very subtle. Very subtle. Very subtle. Then it's going to ripple around this dot. Okay? It's gonna ripple around this dot, and it's gonna go oval, outward, very thin. It's gonna go outward. I'm gonna bring this as close as I can get it and lower the camera a little. Okay, so I'm tilting my brush. See, it's going behind, and it's going to ripple out. If you skip a little bit on your paint, you see how it's going very long oval? Okay, long oval. And the rings don't need to match up. They look more natural if you don't match up the rings, but it's just in an oval shape. This is going to go right over top of the red. So barely touch, going right over top of the reflection, and you can just wipe off any red that you collect. It's okay if you get a little red in the ripple, because ripples actually carry the reflection. They'll carry it away. And we're going to go like that. See how I'm letting the paint kind of break up on there? Okay, I'm barely touching, so it's just kind of breaking up, and it's getting more elongated and going back further. You see, I'm not going to connect that like ripple. It would, if it was in like a perfect drop in the water, it might be perfect. But because there's like little creatures in the pond, everything, it's going to go back over top. I might gob a bit more on. So I'm picking up a lot of paint as I go. Now I got a little pink in there. That's great. And the ripple's getting wider. I can put in a few little rivulets in the ripple. Notice I do not have perfect rings. Like each stroke of the brush is not matching up with the other one. And it's going to go right off the page. We're going to go wider down here, because if you were to look at it straight on, it would be a circle. But we are not looking at it straight on. We're just kind of tilting our head to paint its portrait. We're on the shore painting. We're not in a helicopter. We're on the shore painting our beautiful leaves. I'm catching some of that color there. It's beautiful. Okay, and the white of that, like the pinky colors coming through, the yellows coming through the ripples. And I can have maybe as the ripple goes further out, it loses its momentum, but it does not go over top of the leaves here. It goes over top of the reflection leaves. Okay, it goes behind all of the real leaves. Behind the real leaves, over top of reflections. And then as we go, it loses its momentum. And, you might end up with just some lines going over top of our reflection. It loses its sort of ring-like behavior. I just have too much paint that I collected there. That's fine. I'm going to just wipe it off and carry on. Barely touching still. Wiping off any excess pink or yellow. And there we go. And we might catch a few extra bits back here, but it does not go over the real leaves, just the reflection leaves. It always starts behind them. So you can touch them and then move away. And that's it. And like I say, you can always save your paint. I've got some saved in here if you've done some mixing, and you can also use that for stems. Okay, so if you have the saved, but I'm going to show you here because we've got lots of mixed up colors here. So I'm not going to save that just yet, but you can use that color because the stems are all the colors. Okay, and we can use that same liner brush, or we can use the other brush. And I did put that in water so it wouldn't dry out, but I said I wasn't going to clean it. Okay, but I am going to just dry it off a little bit. Just touch it, dry a little bit. And I'm going to use a popsicle stick or the back. You can use a popsicle stick or the back end of a paintbrush so that your paint doesn't get all gunked up in the brush. Okay, so I'm going to go for that red is kind of messy, so I'm going to kind of go for an orangey color in there. And then I'm just barely going to take any blue, barely any blue. And so I'm just kind of using that spot where my red was. And I'm getting these beautiful umber colors, beautiful mixtures. And I can show you the color on here, on this piece of paper. See? Those, and it's all the colors mixed, and you get these beautiful sort of stem colors, and they might have a greenish hue to them or a reddish hue. And so straight on, I'm going to go from the side and thin. So keep it the thin way. And I'm going to start from here. I'm going to go up higher. I'm going to turn my thing to the side, so I'm going straight on. And I'm coming down from here, and I might bring it a bit thicker. So I might do a couple of lines over top. I'm going to grab some of my white because these are kind of viney. And I'm going to grab some white. Going down here, I'm barely touching. I'm just keeping it thicker near the edge. And I might have two. Like sometimes you can have multiple branches coming off one. And always kind of double dip in that white. Then this branch, maybe there's a branch kind of going in behind to these ones. Maybe there's another branch coming down from here because I've got ones that are coming up there. And We're just kind of giving a little bit of a connection. We don't have to overdo this. Just a little bit, but make sure you get that white on there. Okay, that's why we double dip, so you don't have to go back over with the white. And you don't have to have everything completing each other all the time. We know there's branches there. And just going to bring that back up. I want this a bit thicker. So I'm just going back up with some white. Very simple. And I might go back up with a little bit of white here. Just a little bit of white to get a little sheen on that. And then maybe that branch is going over the other branch. Very simple. Very simple. And then put your brushes in water. And I would probably save this because I've got a lot of blue. Although, don't save your white, but if a tiny, see, I did this from yesterday. There was a tiny bit of white in there. That's not going to hurt anybody. And then you just never know what kind of fun colors you're going to get. You're going to get some version of umber. Okay. So I'm going to just take my blue and my white and all the mixture that I did, stick it in there. Use your white to repurpose a canvas. Like maybe I'm going to repurpose a canvas here. So I'm going to use that white and just start layering some white on. And because white's diluting the color. Remember I said that? So you don't want to overdo. And I never stir it till later, which is kind of fun. I never stir these until later because then I have a nice color. But I'll stir it for now for you guys so you can see it. It's always fun to do that final stir. Okay, so I'll give it a little stir. And also this paint gets thick because it's been sitting out. So I just literally pour some water in before I close it up. And I don't even have to stir it. It just goes by osmosis. So this is more of, so what we got from our first mixture, because we started with red. This is more like a gray brown. So it's got like a Payne's gray feel to it, which is, oh, I've got some red on the spoon. But you see, there's no black in it, but you get these lovely colors. And diluted, it's kind of got an olivey feel to it. And then you don't have to mix. So when I, say, hey, have you got some raw umber? And you don't have to buy more raw umber. You can just use your mixture. And if you want it to look more chocolatey, add a bit of red to it as you take it out. So this had a big gob of blue in it, which probably why it went to more Payne's gray. Payne's gray has more blue than the other colors, but it's not an actual gray. It's a great one to use in watercolors. So next week we're doing the autumn trail. And yeah, so that's kind of nice. The autumn trail I did, I actually used glow-in-the-dark paint for the lantern and on the old pumpkins on there. So that was kind of nice, kind of different. So we shall see you next week on YouTube. That was fun. Yes, and everybody, please like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for making it through to the end. And I know some of you tune in later. Okay. Bye.